All right, good evening, WNBA and LA Sparks fans, and welcome into another exciting edition of WNBA 365 seasonal recaps here. Now, folks, as we may know, here is Cal McClure joining you folks here from Studio 171 in San Diego. And, folks, stepping in at the last minute to help us out tonight is Pat Friday joining us on the show the night we were supposed to have Chris Habas on the night, but perhaps Chris may have been sidetracked by a few things going on in Phoenix or wherever he may be. So, always good that we can have backup here. Pat, good evening, buddy. How's it going tonight?
Going pretty well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Again, kind of coming in here at like the 11th hour of the show here. But again, folks, we're kind of going a bit out of order tonight because, as you may know, on Wednesday, we were supposed to have the Atlanta Dream and James Bowman on from SwitchBeal.com. But, folks, I got sidetracked in studio here because, as you may know, again, my grandfather has been battling a pretty severe stroke, and he suffered a pretty bad setback on Wednesday. So we had to kind of move our lineup out of proportion here. So we were supposed to have Atlanta and Minnesota yesterday and then on Wednesday, but with the stroke happening with my grandfather, I had to take a few days off. So we'll go Phoenix tonight, Atlanta, Minnesota to end out our season recaps. But Pat, tell you what, man, probably a season that will probably never be duplicated again by anybody in the WNBA anytime soon is a team that you cover pretty well, the Phoenix Mercury. The Mercury setting a bunch of records that I think we lost track of here, but to get to the low down here real quick. 29 wins, the new overall record. 16 straight, 16-1 at home. Playoff series, 2-0 sweep versus LA, 2-1 over Minnesota, and 3-0 over Chicago. Pat, normally I would have bullet points here to sort of talk about during the 25-minute recap of each team, but basically, Pat, there is nothing to talk about here other than the fact that this was the most dominating season that I've seen in 10 years in the WNBA. Pat, what did you see from the Mercury this year? We know about all the tooling they did over the offseason to get over that hump. Again, with Brittany Griner going into year 2, Taurasi's extension, Dupree's extension, Aaron Phillips comes in a trade. What did you see from the Mercury that you did not see from his team last season in 2013?
Well, the first thing that stands out in my mind is you go way back in May to training camp. I've been a fan of the Mercury since 2004 when Diana Taurasi came into the league. I've long loved her game, and when this team came into their seasons, even in the championship years in 2007 and 2009, the training camp rosters were full of specialists. You saw three-point specialists, defensive specialists, undersized posts who could, maneuver on the perimeter and help out, big defensive posts and, point guards who were quick but not necessarily strong perimeter shooters. There was no real balance in training camp. Well, this year, you look at the Mercury's training camp, they brought in players like Hallie Christopherson, Alexis Gray-Lawson, April Sykes, Chelsea Hopkins. These are great players in their own right, players who have proven the ability to play in the WNBA and to play at a high level overseas. And they had a strong training camp, and they had to cut some really quality players to get down to the roster that, won the championship this season. And that was, a big thing that stood out to me at the start of the season that set this team apart from other Mercury teams that had won championships or even, the struggling teams of the past.
Yeah, they did a lot of retooling, Pat. We should mention, too, again, the new coaching staff as well, sort of in a way. But, again, the Mercury gets Sandy Brondello, the former Sparks assistant coach, again. And, again, Sandy was sort of out there in the woodwork because of the Sparks ownership problems over the offseason. I'll tell you what, though, Pat, she came in there and she basically kicked this Mercury team in the behind and got this team on track, where they have not really been on track, I would say, at least probably since 2009, maybe, at least championship caliber, perhaps, what's going on right now at this point in time. But in a way, though, Pat, okay, we know about Sandy Brondello. Now, we know that last year, Corey Gaines, not the best of seasons, and then replaced by Ross Purnell late in the year towards the playoffs. What do you think the Mercury got, though, when they did sign Coach Brondello to that contract to become their head coach? Because I think, though, that this Mercury team was completely rebuilt from square one all the way up to the top.
Well, the first thing that Brondello brought to the table was her pinpointedness. She was very direct in her approach. She had a very good game plan and approach to each game, focusing on each team and each player and their strengths and how to, attack each team. And she was very diligent in the work that she did outside of games. It was, funny, Ben York, the writer for PhoenixMercury.com mentioned, that after, some wins going into the All-Star break, she was considering taking a day off, but then, initially going into, scouting reports for the first team after the break. She did a really good job of taking this team's strength and focusing on them and improving the weaknesses. A big thing for this Mercury team was defense. None of the Mercury teams in the past have ever been known for their defense in any fashion, even, considering the short time with Cannell last year at the close of the season, the strength, the better they got as the season went on. They never really played any defense, but this team was strong on the defensive end. They competed every night, and that was something that she brought to the table that wasn't necessarily available with the previous coaching staff.
Yeah, it looked like that they had sort of gone to the well this year and sort of got back on track. Folks, again, we're visiting here with Pat Friday. We are hopefully awaiting on Chris Habas from to join us here sometime soon. We don't know if Chris got mixed up with something of a schedule, but he should be dropping by sometime soon. If not, we'll just be with Pat tonight. And again, folks, even though that we now again, folks, tonight was supposed to be the last night of our recaps, but again, folks, I got sidetracked with a family emergency. So again, we'll have Atlanta on Monday and then Minnesota Tuesday if nothing else pops up on my radar here at this point in time. Now, Pat, again, going back to the records, I mean, a lot of it, most fell, some didn't fall, but again, 29 wins overall, 16 straight, 2 away from time. The LA Sparks of 0-1 and 18 straight. Pretty much a unblemished home record minus one game versus San Antonio. They went 16-1. And then again, a 2-0 sweep of LA in the opening round, 2-1 over Minnesota in round 2, and then a 3-0 sweep of the Chicago Sky. Pat, do you believe that this is probably the best Mercury team that you've seen in 10 years covering this franchise, or what do you think?
There's no question about the talent level of this team. You consider some teams of the past that included players like Cappy Pondexter and LaCoe Willingham. This team has strengths at every position. You consider the change and sliding Penny Taylor into the starting lineup as a guard. That's a 6'1" player who is strong defensively and creates mismatches on the offensive end all night. You start a player like DeWanna Bonner, who's 6'4", who's, led the EuroLeague in scoring. You just have threats from every spot on the floor. And then we haven't even mentioned the greatest player of all time, in Diana Taurasi. She took a step back as far as scoring this year, took, advantage of the growth of Brittany Griner and the, finesse and smoothness of Candace Dupree, and did a great job of balancing the floor with the talented bench that came in and played their roles really well. This is easily the best team in Mercury franchise history.
I think they're going to be a threat for many years, and I don't know if they're on the same level as the Comets of 97 through 01, but then again, we haven't had a team repeat in the WNBA since the Sparks of 01 and 02, and perhaps this could be the next coming of a dynasty, perhaps in the league. Again, folks, the Mercury this year, 29-5 overall, 16 straight wins, 16-1 overall at home, 2-0 sweep of LA in round 1 of the postseason, gutted out a 2-1 3-game series win over Minnesota, the defending champs, and of course swept Chicago in the WNBA finals. And Pat, again, let's go to some players now, specifically, Pat, and again, the obvious choice for everyone, myself included here, because I've been a big fan of hers too since her days at UConn, again, is, of course, Diana Taurasi, again, who continues to establish herself as either the best player ever in the WNBA, perhaps, or the greatest player currently in the WNBA, but obviously with the face of the franchise as well with that tag. But again, I mean, this was probably, I think out of her 3 titles, this was probably the best I think I've seen her play in the 10 years I've watched her play, because she was more of a facilitator, more assists, but also had all of her points and 3-pointers. I mean, there was so many games where she just went off or came through in the clutch. Again, as we know very well with us two being big Taurasi fans, man, is this probably the best year you've seen her play in 10 years, or what do you think?
This is the best season I've seen in terms of leadership, in terms of performance, in terms of, aggression on the defensive end, in terms of focus. She put all those factors together. You look at players around the league such as an Angel McCautry, or Candace Parker, players that, haven't necessarily put it together to take their teams to that next level. And then you look at players like a Diana Taurasi who have established themselves in that manner. And, this season she, calmed it down and did a fantastic job of controlling her attitude. You know, she had a couple outbursts, and, you know, you give her that, you know, throughout the course of the year when you consider, you know, what I call, you know, the Phantom Tarazi foul that she garners every game from the referees. You know, she does a fantastic job of balancing, you know, her emotion and passion for the game. And, you know, this is one of the best seasons that I've ever seen in terms of players, period, in the WNBA, much less those full of, you know, of her, you know, personal. You know, the 2009 season was really strong in terms of scoring and really having her way on the floor, but, you know, really taking advantage of, you know, every little piece of space that she got was something that she did this year, and it was, you know, amazing to watch.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of her best years, and I think out of all the 3 title years, this has got to be one of her best, I think, all-around play. Again, folks, we're visiting here with Pat Friday, Phoenix Mercury writer, joining us here on the program. Here tonight, again, recapping the 2014 season for the 2014 WNBA champion Phoenix Mercury. Now, Pat, we go from Diana to the other piece of that duo, which is Brittany Griner, who I believe had no room for error her rookie season and basically improved her game all around in her second season. A few dunks this year, again, a showing in the All-Star game, and again, played in Game 2, but again, took a pretty bad beating in Game 2, though, chipped the tooth, and then got poked in the eye where it actually forced her to miss Game 3, and she's been adorning goggles ever since. I'll tell you what, Pat, I mean, it's one deal that there's, you know, a body like her that no one can really guard against. But okay, her rookie season wasn't that bad. You know, there was a court case made by me for Rookie of the Year. How do you think, though, Brittany improved her game, though, in season 2, though, after that first season, to getting that first year under her belt?
Well, when you consider the history of the WNBA and players of her size, you know, it's not necessarily her being 6'8". You know, we've had players of her size and larger in the league. When you consider Margot Diedick, who was 7'2", you have Katie Feenstra, you know, Liz Cambridge has been in the league a couple of years. You know, it's not necessarily her size, it's her athleticism and strength and her ability to take advantage of space. You know, she really improved this season. I really wondered about, you know, her playing in China. But as I paid attention to her overseas this past off-season, you hear about the Chinese players. They send, you know, 3 and 4 players at the American players, the foreign players that play in the leagues over there. And, you know, she did a fantastic job of coming back stronger and focused this season. And she did a really good job of, you know, taking advantage of, you know, the offensive opportunities, but really focusing and, you know, being the catalyst and the captain of that defensive game. She's always talked about, you know, wanting to be known for her defense first. You know, the offense is going to be there. The dunks are nice, you know, to pump the team up. But, you know, she wants to be known as a defensive stopper and somebody who took pride in her defense. And that really showed this season. It was, you know, the key to really, you know, allowing the Mercury to have the comfort level, you know, that they had as far as winning games this season.
Again, folks, we are privileged to be joined here by Pat Friday, Phoenix Mercury writer here on the Sparks 365 Network here, recapping the 2014 season again for the Phoenix Mercury. Now, Pat, we talk about the 2 franchise players of the Mercury. How about those sort of labeled those unsung heroes almost, which would include Candice Dupree, DeWanna Bonner, Aaron Phillips? I mean, these players that are sort of in that shadow a little bit of Diana Taurasi and Brittany Griner. Overall, team chemistry, I guess, was a big factor, too, of how well this Mercury team just played every night. I mean, even during that winning streak, they weren't even satisfied that, you know, the streak doesn't mean anything, basically. And, you know, that's an attitude that I love to see is, sure, you're going to set records, but they don't matter unless you're not hoisting the trophy after the season ends at the end of if you're at the finish line holding the trophy at the end of the year. What would you say about about the Mercury this season, because it looked like this team gelled from Game 1 against Seattle at home this year?
A big key in team sports is team chemistry, and it sounds cliche, but it goes a long way. And when you consider the WNBA and the history of teams, you know, there hasn't necessarily been the best history of, you know, teams having, you know, great team chemistry and, you know, having fun off the court. But this team, you know, spent a lot of time off the floor together from day one, you know, from training camp. You know, they're spending time together, going to dinner, you know, hanging out. That's not something that you hear about in professional sports anywhere, you know, much less, you know, considering NBA teams. And they did a really good job of taking advantage of that and allowing that to show on the floor, you know, that passion and whatever the case may have been.
Yeah, I think that the Mercury may have been the best, well-oiled, fine-tuned machine in the entire league this year because that team just gelled as a unit. And from a tip-off, I mean, you were most times from the tip-off, you were already down sometimes between 4 to 10 points already, and in some cases down 20 to 30 points late in the game. So, I mean, Pat, the best part about the Mercury was it wasn't just all Diana or all Brittany. They got production from everybody, which normally it's a tough thing to sort of catch in a bottle, is having all-around team play from everybody or contributions from everybody where it's not just relying on one player or two players to do the job. They got it from everybody. They got it from Dupree, from Bonner, from Phillips, from the bench. I mean, that was something that really one player having to do all the dirty work for the Mercury. It was everyone else chipping in. What would you say, though, about other contributions from not just the main two puzzle pieces of BG and DT?
This season was such a joy for me to watch because DeWanna Bonner, Penny Taylor, Candace Dupree are players that I root for and that I'm fighting for respect for on a daily basis. These are players who don't necessarily get the respect that they could garner on other teams. You know, Penny Taylor had a couple of years in Cleveland where she was, one of the top players on the team, as well as Dupree when she was in Chicago. But these players have taken the back step, and I mentioned DeWanna Bonner's performance in EuroLeague. She's a player that, leading the league in rebounds and scoring on a regular basis in the EuroLeague, and she comes here to the WNBA and takes a back seat, and she's the fourth or fifth option almost, like, and then Erin Phillips is an underrated player. She's just so fantastic. You watch her play, not only for the Mercury, but for Australia in the World Championships. She's such a fantastic player to watch, and she's so ripped and so toned, and man, she just battles in there. And, Misty Fast, this is a player who doesn't have a problem playing a role. She wanted to come in and do exactly what, was asked of her, and that was to rebound and defend and make the shots that were given to her. She did a fantastic job of that. And you even continue on down the bench, Shea Murphy did a fantastic job, after she returned playing for the Serbian national team. She got back and did a really good job of taking care of business. Team, as well as, Annette Yakasoni-Rigoda, doing a really good job of knocking down three-point shots. This is a really strong team, and they just did a fantastic job of taking advantage of the opportunities that were presented to them.
Pat, I want to get to Erin Phillips real quick because Erin was dealt from Indiana early in the offseason to the Mercury. And I'll tell you what, pretty sweet, though, for her, though, to go from the Fever to the Mercury. She wins her second championship in 3 years, which was pretty cool to see after winning it with the Fever in 2012. I've got a lot of mad love for all the Aussie players in the WNBA because, for one deal, I've gone down to Australia to play international baseball, and the people down there are just fantastically awesome. So cool, so respectful to everybody, regardless of where you're from. And, to see Erin Phillips, though, more so her, but also Penny Taylor, too. With all what she's gone through, I guess, through the entire course of the league. How do you think Erin Phillips feels right now after seeing that she was dealt from Indiana, but she comes to Phoenix, though, and wins her second title in 3 years? That's pretty cool to see.
This trade was bittersweet for me because I really, really liked Lynetta Kaiser. I really felt like she was a player that could grow and be a strong, young player going forward for the Mercury. But at the same time, I always loved Erin Phillips. When you consider that we signed her to an offer sheet before she won the championship in 2012, this is a player that, we all know is a really strong, basket. This is somebody that's been coveted around the league. She was signed to an offer sheet from Seattle a couple years ago. This is a player that people want and know what she's capable of. And she came in, a lot of people had her penciled in as a starter because, we were talking about moving Diana Taurasi off the ball. Not that, right? But, she came in and accepted a role and did a fantastic job leading the WNBA in three-point percentage. And she, accepted a role, led this team defensively, and did a really good job of setting the tone and bringing, that coach on the floor extension of Sandy Brondello in so many ways that we could never understand that, made such a huge difference for this team.
Yeah, Erin Phillips, again, dealt to the Mercury from the Fever in the offseason for Leonetta Kaiser. And during the offseason, again, Aaron wins her second championship in 3 seasons. Now, Pat, there's maybe a few more bullet points to get here before we do cut out of here for the night again. We kind of, again, folks, we were supposed to be joined by Chris Habis tonight, but again, something may have come up. But if Chris does chime in after the show or anything, we will kind of a follow-up, I guess, with Chris afterwards, because Chris is from Phoenix and does write for the Suns and the Mercury, so we will hopefully have him either not tonight or perhaps in the future, perhaps either here on the Lakers Network sometime in the future. Now, Pat, again, the Mercury again, folks, 29-5, a lot of records gone tonight or gone in the season. 29 wins, the most overall in league history, 16 straight wins, 2 shy of the LA Sparks' winning streak from 2001 in 2002. And they went 16-1 at home this year. Their only loss came to the San Antonio Stars in the postseason, swept Los Angeles, got past Minnesota 2-1, then swept Chicago 3-0 for their third WNBA title in their franchise's 18-year history. And Pat, I wanted to kind of go to that real quick because, I mean, as we know with the WNBA struggling a lot, man, I know it's kind of, sad to see that there's only 4 teams left, but let's kind of put this in perspective here that basically 2 of the 4 remaining teams, the Sparks, the Mercury, the Liberty, and the Stars, that of the 2 remaining teams, that the Sparks and the Mercury both have championships. Does that sort of fuel more fire to the LA Phoenix rivalry come next season, knowing again that the Sparks' natural rival in the West has finally got their 3rd championship? Or what sort of preview, I guess, can you kind of say looking forward towards 5 more LA Phoenix matchups next season in the 2015 season?
Well, to be honest, I think the first thing for the Sparks is to fix the problems that they have. I've talked at length on Swish Appeal about, the problems that they have at point guard, the problems that they have at small forward. Atlanta Beard, is probably about 5'10", 5'11", yet, they have it listed probably at about 6'1", playing small forward. That's not going to work for them going forward. And then they have 2 of their best players that play the same position, and Candace Parker and Mecca Rumaki, and then they have no coach. Even though Magic Johnson has said, hey, we're going to build this team around Candace Parker and find a coach that's going to fit this team. They have a lot of questions that need to be answered when you consider that this team was wondering if they'd even be in Los Angeles this past off season. We're glad that they were able to stay there, but they need to answer those questions and really get some definition to who they are as a team going forward. It would be really nice if they were able to step forward and kind of continue this rivalry. I really see them being able to take that step forward and, fixing some of the problems that they have going forward next season. I really feel like Candace Parker is somebody that is driven to do a lot better than what she's done. She sort of overachieved with the Rookie of the Year MVP in her first year in the WNBA, but from there she's kind of flatlined. So, this team has the ability to really step forward, and I, see the potential for that rivalry to be renewed. With them having the 5 matchups, you would hope that it would be competitive. So we'll see what the Sparks do and how they respond to, the questions that they have and, what they have to come to the table with.
Yeah, we already addressed those last week, and again, we'll see what LA does do and what they'll do. Who knows? But we'll find out when the time comes during the summer or sometime soon. Now, again, folks, we were technically supposed to be ending our recap shows today, but again, with the minor setback with my family, again, we'll be having the Atlanta Dream recap on Monday, and then the Minnesota Lynx recap on Tuesday, and that will finally end our recap shows, and we'll get to those later on in the week or so. But again, folks, we were joined here by Pat Friday, who's a Mercury writer here on the LA Sparks 365 Network. Now, Pat, as we get ready to wrap things up, man, again, we'll just kind of put this back in a nutshell again. But again, the Mercury, 29 wins, the most overall in league history, a 16-game winning streak, 2 shy of the LA Sparks' all-time WNBA record at 18 consecutive wins, a 16-1 home record, and blowing through everybody, including the defending champion Lynx in a tough 3-game series, getting past LA, Minnesota, and Chicago for the WNBA championship. Pat, I know it's kind of tough to do this, man, but what is your final thoughts and your final take on what is probably, or actually what is the greatest season in the 18-year history of the Phoenix Mercury?
Well, I want to talk about 2 keys to the season that really deserve some credit. First off, I absolutely love Penny Taylor. This is a player who's worked tirelessly to get back onto the floor and produce this season for this team, and she's done a fantastic job of getting back to health. When a lot of people, had written her off, personal because I'm such a huge fan of Penny. Reading blogs saying that they didn't think that she could get back to this level, and I always knew, based on the work ethic and the person that I've been told that Penny is, to get back onto the floor, and she did a really good job of doing that this season and attacking and being a fantastic option for this team going forward. But also somebody that won't get a lot of credit. Assistant coach Julie Haregrove. She's somebody that's been with this franchise for a very long time. She's been a constant with this franchise. Everybody trusts her. The players have a fantastic relationship with her. Diana Taurasi loves her. She's somebody that, doesn't get a lot of credit for what she does, but she's someone that is integral to what this team, does each season. She did a really good job of, getting this team prepared going into training camp before Sandy Bardella was able to return to the team, winning the championship overseas in Russia. But this team did a really good job of taking advantage of, what was dealt to them. They, had some fantastic options and, produced a fantastic season. And I'm just, thankful that I was able to be present and see it.
Absolutely, folks. And perhaps, folks, a season that will never be duplicated again by any WNBA team in the future again. 29-5 overall record. 29 wins are the most in WNBA history. A 16-game winning streak, 2 shot of the LA Sparks all-time record, and going 16-1 at home this season, including a 2-game sweep of the Sparks in the opening round of the postseason, pulling out a 2-1 series over the defending champion Lynx in the second round, and capped off by a 3-0 sweep of the Chicago Sky to capture the franchise's third WNBA title. That is the 2014 season for the Phoenix Mercury. Now, again, folks, a program alert for you folks, again, on Monday night and Tuesday, pending more setbacks, folks, with my family right now. Again, we've been having this problem with my grandfather the past few weeks. Again, he, had a pretty rough stroke a few weeks ago and then had a pretty bad setback early this morning. So, again, folks, with that, we had to bump our Atlanta and Minnesota recaps back a few days. So, again, you'll come back on Monday night with the Dreams recap, and then on Tuesday, we'll end it with the Minnesota Lynx, again, pending any further roadblocks here to keep us from finishing this up. But again, folks, we should be ending, hopefully, fingers crossed, here, ending this on Tuesday night here with our seasonal recaps. With that, folks, thank you guys for tuning in. Pat, thanks for coming on. It's such short notice here. I know we were supposed to have Chris Habas on, but again, perhaps with Chris, again, he probably got sidetracked. But again, we will probably talk to Chris later on down the week, and hopefully we can kind of get a follow-up. But Pat, thanks for coming in and sort of saving the night for us here. We'll talk to you again sometime soon. Thanks for coming on.
Well, absolutely, man. And on behalf of everybody at Switchfield, we thank you for all that you do, and I definitely wish you the best, and send up prayers for your family in this tough situation.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you, everybody at switchfield.com. And with that, folks, we will see you folks back here Monday night. Until then, folks, have a safe weekend. Drive home safely. Thank you all for coming. And good night now. This has been the LA Sparks 365 Network. We are Sparks. We are LA. And, of course, we are the WNBA. See you folks back here Monday night, 10 p.m., recapping the 2014 season for the Atlanta Dream. See you folks then. For Pat Friday, Cal McClurk signing off. See you folks then. Bye-bye.